the president did an interview with Brett Baer. I think it was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, where he said, well, we're ahead of schedule. I think this actually might go. He's like, I didn't think we're going to kill like 49 of their leaders in one shot, but we did. So we're looking pretty good.
Okay. You got to love the confidence. You really do. You have to appreciate the confidence.
Welcome to Rivera and Reeves, the podcast where we break through the bias, report the news, and occasionally trip over our soapboxes while ranting about the headlines.
Every week, we tackle the biggest stories with sharp analysis, unfiltered honesty, and just enough sarcasm to keep it fun.
So pull up a chair, grab your coffee, and join us as we wade through the spin, because the media is trash and we have zero patience for their nonsense.
Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Rivera and Reeves. I'm Miss Sadie and I'm here with my friends Rachel and Amanda. Say hello, ladies. Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me back.
Well, we figured, Rachel and I was like, I think it's a little fitting that we have our friend Amanda on to talk about all of the things that are currently happening. Because there's plenty going on right now. So for those of you who are paying subscribers, Rachel and I gave everybody our initial thoughts literally morning of, because this happened Friday night. Woke up Saturday morning. We had an unfiltered episode scheduled for that Saturday. So that's what we talked about. So those were our unfiltered thoughts, but we wanted to have Amanda on today to kind of go through the game of play. What are maybe some things that people aren't talking about? What are things that people are talking about that aren't necessarily correct, or maybe don't, take everything into context? So we have like a little bit more information. And also I think, all of us were what is this, day 4? Something like that. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yeah. So we're all kind of getting a better feel of like where everything stands. So, but before we get started, if this is your first time here, welcome. You have found your new favorite podcast. Make sure you hit that follow button wherever you're listening. We're on all major podcast apps, on YouTube the day after. But if you want to see this video and listen ad free, please consider becoming a paying supporter on our primary platform, Substack. Okay, there is a link in the show notes. It's well worth it, because if you do, you can also watch our unfiltered episode from this Saturday, because we do one a month on the last Saturday of every month at 11:30 a.m. live. So we topped off, I think, at like 36 people, which I know doesn't sound humongous, but it is for us, because this is like a brand new experiment for us. And we're also doing this on a Saturday. So, okay, ladies, let's let's talk about what is going on. Okay, to give a little bit of a setup, on Saturday morning when we all woke up, we all discovered that the U.S. and Israel had launched an operation. The U.S. operation is Operation Epic Fury, and the Israeli operation is Operation Rising Lion. All right. At the end of by the full 24 hours, I think we were down 49 Iranian leaders. The Ayatollah was dead, confirmed to be gone. I think there was a strike on a Kuwaiti base, which unfortunately took the lives of 6 American servicemen. And in addition, I think there's like a total of, 11 injured. Currently in the hospital in Kuwait. There was also a friendly fire situation that happened over Kuwait, where it was like 6 pilots and everybody's fine. Thank goodness.
Yep.
And then this morning, big news, the Ayatollah conclave basically was blown up by Israel, right? I mean, I think that's kind of like the main highlights that we're at, which, when I saw that report, I was like, could we put it? I think we should just stop with the in-person meetings, honestly.
Yeah. Zoom works. Yeah.
Do a Zoom call. So, quick question, Amanda. So that situation with the meetings, like, are you aware of like what that process is? Who would have been there?
From what I understand, this is what I hope people understand. Okay. The Islamic Republic is not just one supreme leader that is kind of what it is. The supreme leader can overturn any law passed by their version of Congress, anything like that. But it is an entrenched process. They do have a bureaucratic structure there. And so this is why a lot of people have been doubtful of, like, you know, any sort of regime change, you know, war in Iran for a long time, is because you can't just bomb a couple people or bomb a couple places and expect this entrenched bureaucracy to fold. I guess the counter to that from the Israelis would be, well, what if we just kill all of the Shia clerics when they're trying to appoint a new leader? Then they won't be able to appoint a new leader. I saw that Trey Yingst reported that. Then I saw some skepticism. The Iranians are saying that the building was empty. Can we take them seriously? Probably not.
I mean, and the Mossad and U.S., like the CIA and Mossad intelligence has been pretty on point so far, reportedly, you know.
But from what I understand, this is their process by which to pick a new supreme leader, and everybody that sits on that council has to be voted in. So if somebody dies on the council, they have to hold an election to put somebody else on that structure. So I don't know what their system is to get something like this back in place in order to do something. And this just happened, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I've not
it's
read
breaking
any
news.
Iranian like thing on what they're gonna do around it. Maybe we'll find out the next day. But that is kind of one of the things that I'm thinking about right now is, I don't know, has the conventional logic been wrong? If we can just take out that entire side of the system, because we have to remember, I mean, there's the religious side, but then they do have a Congress, right?
Yeah.
And they do have elected presidents and everything. And so are there some members of the more secular side that can be overruled by the religious side that just say, hey, we're done. We'll play nice. We'll be your Delcy Rodriguez. And is that what happens here? I don't know. I do have to say, though, just really quick, it is hilarious to me how different war is in the Middle East under Biden and Trump. Under Biden, he made the Israelis do ceasefires for nothing in return during Ramadan. It's the middle of Ramadan right now, and we just took out all of the Shia clerics. It's a whole new Middle East.
Yeah.
Well, okay, now that you've mentioned that, to kind of bring us to the state of play. So this has been, now I don't want to go all the way back to 1979, okay? Like that'll come up, but we don't have time for that. Like current day, this has kind of been started, I guess, I mean, probably a little bit before that, but it was really sort of starting to pop off in January, where there were protests in Iran that were reportedly larger and more significant than they have been in the past. And then the response was killing a bunch of innocent protesters and Iranian citizens. And the debate is the quantity. Like some people are claiming as low as 3,000. I've heard numbers as high as 60,000. The middle point is sitting somewhere around 30,000. I don't know exactly who are providing those numbers or how those numbers are confirmed. Because, of course, everybody's suspicious. People are suspicious of Iran. People are suspicious of Israel. And so nobody's necessarily trusting the numbers fully. But this is a regime that has a very long history of being brutal to their people. So it's not out of the realm that this has happened. Then we had what was it? The operation, which the one that bombed
Midnight Hammer.
Yes, Midnight Hammer, which was over the summer, where the new word, by the way, for the administration is obliterated, where allegedly. I feel like everybody all of a sudden is using the word obliterated.
What was the word that was the word of the year last year that Trump was using all the time? Oh, dang it. When he gets on a word and he gets really excited about it, it's in every Truth Social post. He is trying to say it all the time. It's like he learned them for the first time, or like he realized that certain words do carry a lot of power. And he's like, we're just going to use this one. The whole campaign is going to be around this one word. And obliterated is the word of the day, the word of the week.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, since this operation, all of this stuff with since the Fordo attacks on, like, that's all he's been saying. And then a lot of people are like, well, if you said it was obliterated and now we're going back in, was it really obliterated? Which we'll get into, I guess. But then there was a long debate or attempts at diplomacy with Witkoff, Kushner, and then who were they meeting with in Geneva exactly? Like, was it Iranian or?
Well, apparently the Iranian mediators would not be in the room with them in Geneva. And then we were also undergoing mediations via Oman. And Oman is right there at the tip of the Gulf, and they're a monarchy, and they're historically very like neutral. I believe they've even been bombed by Iran in this conflict. So that's but they were
everybody last night, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Negotiations clearly didn't work.
I mean, well, that was kind of where I was about to go. So, like, apparently negotiations didn't work. And the word on the street is that the decision for Operation Epic Fury, I got to remember all these names, was done while Trump was in Corpus Christi, Texas. Like, at like 3:00 in the afternoon, he made the final decision. We're going to go based on some new intelligence that had come across, right? Now, in regards to, can you kind of give us a game of play? So, like, he has made the decision. Can you give us like a little bit of a rundown of the first 24 to 48 hours of the operation, like on the biggest highlights?
Real quick, how long did he have between when he made the decision, like when he was in Corpus Christi to flying back to Mar-a-Lago? Because there was also that event in Mar-a-Lago that lasted.
Those events were happening.
Yeah. So that event, because someone I know was at one of them and it ended.
He was at a fundraising event and then
until
also
like
there was
10
a wedding
or 11
going
at
on.
night. Yes. And he was talking with people like totally normal. And within like an hour was in the Situation Room at Mar-a-Lago, just epic furying. And like, it was kind of crazy. You know what I mean? The transition is real.
Well, not only that, but apparently while all the media was distracted with him in Corpus Christi, where he's out there talking about, look at these amazing ships we're building here.
Yeah.
DOD, like Department of War, and everybody was landing in separate planes over at Mar-a-Lago and setting up the Situation Room for him. So like there was a little bit of a distraction there.
Yeah.
Of like, I'm over here at Corpus Christi while everybody's setting up in Mar-a-Lago. So, but yeah, I'd like to kind of get like a little bit of a highlight or rundown on how this operation came to be, and how the US and Israel work together.
Well, first I just want to zoom out just a tiny bit. Because I feel like when we're talking about this as a final decision based on new intelligence, we're talking about, did they have a nuke or not? Were they close to one or not? That I think is that's the framing most people use, but I think it's like a little bit too technical. This is the problem with Iran. They're an adversarial, hostile regime to the United States, and they're willing to use force and project power outside of their borders in order to extract concessions from us and our partners in the region. That's the reason. One of the things that they do is they threaten to make a nuke all of the time. So when we've been saying since the 90s they're a week away from a nuke, we've been right the whole time. They have the materials. They say it would take 6 months to put together or a week to put together, and they keep closing that gap. The threat is that they'll make it, right? That's the threat. Then with these ballistic missiles, first of all, a country does not build ballistic missiles if they don't want to put a nuke on them. It's not like that. I don't know how the right way to put this. Like, it's not the right type of technology. You would make something cheaper. You would make drones or something if you didn't want to put a nuke on one of those ballistic missiles. So stocking up these stockpiles of ballistic missiles, that was
in addition to enriching to 60%.
Yeah, and then they can threaten all of their our regional partners with it, basically. And so we just have to, and then they have their, like, if we want to call it a navy, and I believe Trump has sunk like 18 of the ships thus far.
Yes, they're at the bottom of the ocean.
They could threaten to stop up the Strait of Hormuz. 20 to 30% of global oil trade goes through there. The biggest U.S. partners who get oil through the Strait of Hormuz are Japan and South Korea. I think Japan at 72% of their oil comes through there, or liquefied natural gas. In South Korea at 60%. China's 50%. So, basically Iran can be so annoying to us and is willing to be so annoying to us and threaten Israel and threaten the Gulf states with drones, with making a nuke, with ballistic missiles, with closing the Strait of Hormuz, with doing all of these things, that it was like, well, we might as well just acquiesce to them, right? Because we don't want to deal with it. And maybe, and this was, I think, the thinking under the Obama administration and the Biden administration, they were thinking, well, look, there's some rationality at play there, right? It's rational for them to want to get their own means and use force to do it, right? That's a rational thing that countries do. It's rational. Look, they helped us defeat ISIS. Like, we fought alongside them against ISIS. We could trust them to fight ISIS. So why can't we trust them to do other things? This was their rationale. It was wrong rationale. It's like really stupid rationale. But that's why we've allowed Iran to become the player that we've allowed them to become. So that's the way I wish people would frame this. If you're sitting at home wondering, like, is this a war of choice because were they right on the brink that minute? That's the wrong question to ask. When the regime is this historically weak, when there are this many people out protesting them or trying to create some sort of an uprising, and when Israel and the United States are this historically strong, and when we have the threat of a rising China that we have to combat, why not just take the regime out when they're at their weakest point? That is, I think, the calculus that we made, not, oh, well, were they actually going to get a nuke next week? You know what I mean?
Well, actually, that you mentioned that specifically about them enriching and getting a nuke, Witkoff, who was doing the negotiations or, along with Kushner in Geneva, was interviewed last night by Hannity, and he addressed that specific concern. So I'm going to play it here for everybody to hear for a moment. I'm going to play it here for everybody.
90% material, Sean, can be brought to 90%. That's weapons grade, in roughly 1 week, maybe 10 days at the outside. The 20% can be brought to weapons grade inside of 3 to 4 weeks. And let me say this, because I forgot this small little detail. In that first meeting, both the Iranian negotiators said to us directly, with no shame, that they controlled 460 kilograms of 60%, and they're aware that that could make 11 nuclear bombs, and that was the beginning of their negotiating stance. So they were proud of it. They were proud that they had evaded all sorts of oversight protocols to get to a place where they could deliver 11 nuclear bombs.
So I want to set this up because a lot of people are trying to compare the situation to Iraq. This is the most common thing that you hear. So like, there'll be maybe a comment or an argument of like, well, this sounds like another setup or proposal of weapons of mass destruction that never really materialized. But I mean, Iran is specifically different because there is known record outside of Iran and outside of US and Israeli intelligence of them having, not having, but like working towards nuclear enrichment. Correct?
Yes. Yeah. So the one of the big differences between Iraq and Iran is that because Iran entered into the nuclear deal, the International Atomic Energy Agency has gone into some of their nuclear sites and has inspected them. So we know for a fact that they have this material. And I also just want to say, okay, they could make 11 nuclear bombs. They could also make dirty bombs with that. Okay? So like, it's not just, they could attach this to an ICBM and send it over to the United States tomorrow. When they're this weak, do we want them to be able to sit down in a meeting with our negotiators and threaten us like that? We don't have to take that, actually. We can just do things. That is the thought process of them, what Witkoff just laid out right there. We don't have to deal with hostile actors like that. Do we want to create a second North Korea? No. Do we want to create a second Russia? No.
And I had this thought the other day. I was talking with my husband, and I think back to, when, like, I think about the USS Cole. I think about when we started to see the rise of the Taliban, for example, and also, strikes that were coming towards military servicemen from the Middle East. and where it just kept getting kicked down the road. And specifically, like Clinton kicked it down the road. And then ultimately that's what set everything up and led us into a 9/11 situation. Now, I'm not saying that we were going to end up in a 9/11 situation, but also, I mean, I think the same thing can be applied to Benghazi too. Like you saw things were starting to bubble up and the administration was like trying to appease to keep things kind of peaceful, kick it down the road, either because an election was coming up or because it didn't help them politically. And then when something happens, everybody's like, well, you had the opportunity. Why didn't you take it then? Like, why didn't you take it at that time? Even Obama has expressed like regret that he didn't help or like his strategy with Iran. And I think like because I think the core decision, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that CIA intelligence figured out or got word that all of the leaders were meeting together in one room for breakfast, essentially, to have a meeting, and informed Israel about this opportunity. And then that's what led them to make the decision to do it when they did in the daylight at a time that Iran is weak and the United States and Israel is significantly stronger and has an upper hand. Like,
maybe that's the case, maybe it's not. I literally don't know. To me it all just goes back to, it's like, look, China and Russia want a multipolar world. The Europeans want a multipolar world where they deal with us and China. Welcome to multipolarity. We don't have to consult you guys anymore. Our military is more powerful than anyone's, and we can just do this if we would like to. We don't have to deal with the constant threat of Iran. Here you go.
I think that it's a very different strategy if we can just do this if we want to. I'm just saying, like, compared to past administrations, like, it's very... Now, how does this play out? First of all, who do they know yet? Like, who is the IRCG put in charge? Like, the Ayatollahs have kind of blown up. That's on a shelf right now. I thought I saw that some defense minister had been appointed and was dead the next day. Is that correct?
We're in the stage of the war right now where I'm not going to necessarily say that anyone's in charge, because they're probably going to be gone in 12 hours. And this is my favorite part of Israeli wars. We saw this with Hezbollah. This happened like 7 times in a row where we've got a new leader. Oh, bye. That happened like 2 years ago. And so that's what we're in now. I believe the main guy right now is Ali Larijani. And he has, I believe the last I heard, come out and said, we will not negotiate and we are not going to give up anything. So there you go. I here's the thing. Like, well, again, it's like there are some rational actors in Iran. Listen, when we go back to the protesters, there were 3 or 4 different government sources who I can't remember if they spoke to the New York Times or Washington Post or Wall Street Journal off the record. And they said, we would be fine if the Shah came back. We would like something like this government system. We can't really handle the sanctions. We're kind of done with this. We would be fine with some sort of reform. There are people like, was that like a messaging fake out? Maybe, but I have to believe that, like, look, it's not going well in Iran. It hasn't been for a long time. A lot of the regime leadership, they have their families living in the West. A lot of the time they go on like months long vacations to Europe and stuff. Maybe it's time. Maybe they feel like, hey, we're on a bad path. The IRGC is like super entrenched more than it ever has been. They basically run the country at this point. It's not really going that well. Maybe there are some rational people who are talking to us behind the scenes. Apparently there are CIA and Mossad on the ground kind of talking. I don't know. We'll have to see. But to answer your other question, yeah, I don't think we know who's in charge right now besides Larijani, and I don't know if he's still around.
So Amanda, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Rachel.
I was going to ask a question, and I know we're going to talk about kind of where we see cracks in the United States messaging to the American people about this. But when you were talking at the top about nuclear weapons, I know that seems to be the topic that most people who are dissenting in the response that the White House has made to this, they are saying, you've lied to us. You told us that for 25 years that nukes are ready, blah, blah, blah. And they're really talking about the nuclear weapon narrative. That's what they seem to be focusing on. Do you think it's kind of short-sighted for the White House to not also be mentioning the fact that Iran sponsors terrorism all around the world, and that too that directly affects the American citizenry inside our borders, and also Americans that are abroad, either at military bases or living abroad, dual citizens, traveling. I feel like it's a missing piece that people don't talk about. The fact that everybody's saying there's no immediate danger we're in. And I'm going, what are you talking about? These people sponsor terrorism literally everywhere. And I am nervous about what they're doing here, especially with the open borders of Biden. But even without that, how they're able to infiltrate onto American soil and wreak havoc here. Is that something they should be messaging harder?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I think Trump mentioned the Marine barracks bombing in his kind of first speech announcing the attacks. Yeah. That was obviously the 281 Marines who were bombed in their sleep, basically, in Beirut, when the United States was just in Lebanon, just so everyone is aware, as a peacekeeping mission. We were not fighting in Lebanon. We were just protecting there. And we actually held Israel back in that war. So anybody saying that we only do everything for Israel, there is an example of us not doing something for Israel, because Israel, okay, whatever. But I agree. We should probably be mentioning that more. In my opinion, the White House is not mentioning this war very well, or messaging it very well. And I think that that's just because they feel like they don't have to. This is going to be over in 4 or 5 weeks. I think it has a 74-75% approval rating with Republicans. It's not going to affect us very much at home. Gas prices might go up for a little bit. They'll come back down. Let's say we have a friendly Iranian regime at the end of this, and they can start, they can start, they can start selling their oil on the global market again. That would be a really bad thing for China.
Exactly.
Prices will come down further, maybe. I mean, they're going to have to go back up. Nobody's making money right now who's in the oil industry. But there are those considerations at play too. And so I don't know. I mean, right now, this is a big thing for the podcaster circuit, right? Tucker Carlson has something to freak out about, Megyn Kelly. But ultimately, most Americans' everyday lives are not affected by war with Iran, besides giving an opinion on it. We're not the one.
Well, and I think that's one of the talking points that's being used. It's this doesn't affect us. Why are we bothering? We have 6 servicemen now that have died. We have others that are injured. The only person that's really I'm just repeating the talk. The only person that this really benefits, or anyone that this benefits, is Israel. And then on top of that, we have the issue of the administration not doing great with their messaging. We have the president using the term casually, but he's regime change would be cool, but the Iranian people need to step up. Then you had Hegseth, who did his press conference. I actually have a clip for Hegseth, so I'm going to go ahead and let him tell us.
But we must prove it every single day. History doesn't care if we're tired, if we're scared, or if the fight feels big. It demands warriors who rise anyway. Peace through strength, the warrior ethos, lethality, unity of purpose, those are not slogans. They're the beating heart of what it means to wear the uniform.
I had the wrong clip. So the clip that I was looking for was the one where he kind of laid out the goals of the operation, which was mainly focused on just getting rid of any weapons capability and the leadership of, I don't even think he mentioned the leadership. I think he was just talking about their nuclear capability, their ballistic capability. And once that's taken care of, that's it. We're done. We're out of here. He's we're not going to do a long war. And he actually even got testy at one point, because somebody asked him, how can you guarantee that this won't be a long, protracted war? And he's like, were you not listening to me? I love that your dog is making the camera move around. It's so funny. But I mean, and then you also had Rubio, who got clipped out of context yesterday after he talked to the Gang of Eight. So before we talk about the narrative with, Rubio and stuff, I feel like there's a lost opportunity here. But I guess, like you said, like, you think they don't care?
I think they don't care, but I also think that, like, look, this is a joint operation with the United States and Israel, and we have we have different aims in this war than Israel.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
the nice thing about Israel is they understand that they are the junior partner. So they're like, hey, so here's the thing. Operation Rising Lion, look at the monarchy flag of Iran. There's a lion on it. They are openly like, no, we would like regime change. We would like a different regime in place. The reason I think that Hegseth and other American leadership is so adamant that we are not going after regime change is because we have different goals. And so we're acting in tandem. Something that I think is like phenomenal. And every military analyst that I follow has said this, like, the coordination between the United States and Israel in this war, we have not seen two partners coordinate like this since World War II, maybe. So what we're doing is we're acting, it seemed like at first we were acting from outside of Iranian airspace, and now since Sunday we've been inside actively of Iranian airspace, but it was the United States and Israel from, I think, Iraq, and then also in the Persian Gulf. It would be like the Israelis fly up to the point, they take out their targets, they pull back and refuel, then the United States goes in, we take out our targets, pull back, refuel, they go back in. So that level of coordination is incredible. And by the way, we could not do that level of coordination had we not been planning this with the Israelis or coordinating with them for a very long time. We were practicing for this undoubtedly under Biden. We kept it going under Trump. So anybody who thinks that the pro-Palestine movement was like really causing this deep internal division and we were secretly not trusting the Israelis anymore, you can't have an operation like that if that was true. So that's kind of all Hollywood at that point then, where it's like, maybe we're going to turn. No, I mean, we're very well coordinated with them. What was I going for with what I'm saying? I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say,
what's happening with the war.
I think it's interesting that all of the podcaster circuit, all of the political commentary circuit, they all think that the military and the administration and all of these alliances we have, especially the alliance with Israel, is as reactionary as they are. So that all of a sudden, if Tucker Carlson says something and comes in to meet with Trump and Trump agrees with it, he's just going to go to war the next week, because that's how they all work. They're very reactionary. They spout off and have an opinion after 24 hours, and they think it's like concrete and actually like what's happening. And they think, I think that in their mind, they think it's like a video game. Like, you can turn the military on with a switch and they can all of a sudden come up with this super complex, intricate operation like we've never seen before. And they could just like devise it and then like
execute it within
a week. Like, clearly they've never had any military experience to think that that's how it works, and think that this hasn't been talked about and strategically planned for years. I think that that's telling and kind of funny, and really does highlight a level of ignorance when you're listening to people wishcast what they think, that what they want to actually be happening, as opposed to what is on the ground actually happening within, the military. I don't know. That seems interesting to me.
And it's not just us and the Israelis, because the other thing, I can't believe I'm giving like Biden credit in this, but like the other thing that we're seeing is like kind of the emergence of a Middle East NATO, where like, look, for the last 30 or 40, or longer than that, our entire policy when it comes to the Middle East was like, keep the Israelis at a distance, do not do joint operations with them, even when they want to. In the first Gulf War, the Israeli pilots, like Iraq was not only invading Kuwait, they were firing Scud missiles at Israel. And the Israelis were begging us, hey, let us come in and fight with you in the coalition forces. And the Bush administration was like, nope, nope, we're good. We're going to take care of this for you. You stay back, because if you get involved, then the Gulf partners will abandon us. And our whole thing is that we want to have good relations with the oil price setters, basically, right? And if we're involved with the Israelis, that's not going to happen. Well, now you have all of our partners in the Gulf putting out joint statements condemning the Iranian actions. Palestinian Authority came out and condemned Iran's actions.
Which is like,
Wow.
excuse me, what?
Because they're firing at all of these Gulf states, which, by the way, I think is rational for the Iranians to do.
Well, I think, like, I mean, it seems like they're hoping to create so much chaos in the region that at some point the Gulf states will be like, look, leave them alone so they'll stop acting out. I think is what I like. That rationale is a very, like, I don't know, like panicking rationale, as opposed to, you know, I mean, if you're going to hit someone, why wouldn't they hit you back? I mean, maybe it's just like how typically the dynamic worked in the Gulf, and now because of the relationship with Trump, especially when it comes to building and the economic ties that they're starting to form with the U.S., might be why they're reacting differently. I honestly have no idea. I'm literally just speculating.
Well, when it comes to the Gulf, I mean, like, look, the Gulf has this plan. The Gulf has this plan of how they're going to function post oil, because oil is going to run out one day, or it's not going to be as necessary. And so what are they going to be? We have this multipolar world that we're kind of living in now. It's the United States and China are the two main poles, just like in the first Cold War, how Europe was the decisive theater. Eurasia will be the decisive theater this time. And the Gulf sits in the middle of that. So their whole thing is like, look, come here, build things. We are stable. We are the most stable, peaceful place. It's all nice here. There's no crime. Well, this flies in the face of that when there's ballistic missiles lobbied down on there.
Have you seen the clips of like the influencers in Dubai, like having meltdowns with their totally like injected faces? Because they're used to stuff just being like chill in Dubai and the UAE.
Well, and so this, I mean, this like really, if this goes on, and I think this is why the Gulf partners are coming out so strongly on this side now, because again, what happens if Iran has a nuclear weapon and you can't fight them as hard, and they can still threaten to do exactly what they're doing now to the Gulf states, and the Gulf states, what are they going to do? This is why Biden was able to, and I think Trump was doing it too, putting together this sort of like Middle East NATO, this kind of coordination behind the scenes where all of these partners could come together and either defend themselves against Iran or attack Iran to make Iran stop doing this. I don't know. People keep saying that like, oh, America's this destabilizing actor, Israel is. I'm sorry, they would all be taking Iran's side if that was the case. They're standing with us 10 toes down. It's the Europeans we have to worry about. And so like, there's a reason for this, right? But in my opinion, that's why the Gulf states, stuff like that, they're trying to become like a tech hub and have all these data centers and all of this stuff. And basically they want to buy American chips. So that's why they're like really cozying up to us, because that's their plan for the day after. But they also need us for security and protection. And I am a little bit worried because there are headlines that they're running out of interceptors and stuff. And they've like gone through years worth of production of interception. Are you
talking about the Gulf states or the United States?
Gulf states.
Okay.
So that is something that we need to be worried about. But again, then you have to take out this, you have to either make Iran's current regime so scared that they never do something like this again and they're just complete puppets, or you have to like fully take them out, because they can't keep up their image of stability if this is going to happen every few years, right?
Which kind of leads credence to the discussion that Trump and Vance had, that I forget which outlet reported on it, where Trump was initially going to go in with the
New York
limited
Times
strike. And Vance was like, go big, basically go big or go home. Because if
he was
you
like,
go in
I don't necessarily want to do this. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He was
you can't just
let's...
like kind of hobble them. You need to either go in and extract and remove the entire cancer, or don't waste your time on these limited strikes, because it's going to stop it for a little bit and then it'll just metastasize again.
It almost makes you think like, look how different.
Which is interesting too, because remember, Vance was notoriously like, all of the same people who are mad right now at the administration, especially in the commentary sector, were very pro Vance, because they're like, he's kind of like dancing the line as an isolationist, and we love that. America first, America only.
But he even said it during the VP debate. He called out
but people
Iran.
hear what they want to hear. People hear these little talking points, and he says things at the right time, and then he gets mad at Zelensky, and everybody's like, this is our guy. He's not going to get involved anywhere foreign. And it's like, okay, You can't be
I think a lot of people just need to understand that there's a difference between an operation with a specific goal and not. And now, of course, anything can happen, and we're in the very beginning stages. Right. And I saw a report that there are conversations happening about arming the Kurds, and that Israel is like softening the borders so the Kurds can come in. And then that brings into question, like, well, does that mean training operations? Like, how does that evolve? You know, but I think there's a difference between, like, I will say that at least so far, even though the president has said, yeah, regime change would be kind of cool, he's saying it as like, that would be the ultimate goal. That would be awesome if it happened. But he says, but the Iranians need to do it for themselves, essentially. And I think that aligns with the problem is that when it comes to messaging, you have to have like a solid message, like a sentence, a phrase, something that's like everybody's repeating it. And what's happening right now is that the administration is saying a lot of the same things, but they're saying it piecemealed. And then like everybody can kind of pick it apart. It's like, well, they didn't mention that they won't be a forever war. It's like, well, I mean, we've already discussed that. Like, how many times do you need me to repeat that? Well, apparently we need to repeat that like 20 million times. So
we were in a forever war with Iran. They've been attacking us this whole time, and thank God we're not that close to it. We don't have to deal with it that frequently.
Right.
We've been in a forever war with Iran.
Yeah, we're not starting one. We're ending one. We're not starting one.
Well, and I think one thing that really irritates me, like Megyn Kelly, again, to bring her up, unfortunately, she, of course, came in on Monday. She did her whole talking point. Actually, I have a little clip from her here.
Is this the one about the military?
Look, there are massive divisions over what we've done here.
Calm down, Rachel.
People are going to change their minds over the coming days and weeks, one way or the other. But my own feeling is no one should have to die for a foreign country. I don't think those 4 service members died for the United States. I think they died for Iran or for Israel. I think I understand how this helps Iran perfectly well. I get it. I mean, I hope. Long term, we'll see. But they seem rather jubilant. 80% of the country does not support the Ayatollah. He was a terrible, terrible man. No one's crying that he's dead. No normal person. But our government's job is not to look out for Iran or for Israel. It's to look out for us. And this feels very much to me like it is clearly Israel's war. Mark Levin wanted it. It's his war. Ben Shapiro, Lindsey Graham, Miriam Adelson. That's obvious. They're the ones who've been pushing us into.
This is laughable.
Everybody looks like their heads are about to explode.
It's laughable until you really think about what she's saying about American servicemen.
It's gross.
That devalues their service and their sacrifice. And I will say anecdotally, before we totally bash her for what she just did, I hear from dozens, if not hundreds, of military families or veterans on a pretty routine basis. And they are some of the most supportive voices that I'm hearing from about this operation. Almost all of them, I think I've heard from maybe 2 or 3 that are cautiously optimistic, bordering on disagreeing with this operation. But for the most part, they are in complete agreement with this, supportive and hopeful, and are like, it's about time. And I'll just add that because I think their voices get lost in this. They're kind of used on both sides as pawns sometimes for rhetoric, for rhetorical purposes. But I think what she's saying is gross. I think it's a disservice to our servicemen.
Something that I want to add here, which has been really irritating me about just like people who, and I get it, there's people that are uninformed or just don't know the history. And specifically, so the DC huddle, which is with Sean Spicer, Dan Turnentine, and their host is Rachel Byrne, I think is her last name, Maine. Okay. So she spoke to the president last night, which was really funny to hear her talk about it this morning. And basically the president was like, apparently Megyn Kelly needs to look at her history book. And I don't really care about what Tucker Carlson says. Yeah. And I get really irritated because some people I'll give them a break because they don't know. But then there's also individuals like people of influence that are sitting comfortably in their podcast bubble, like, for example, even we are, and they're like, well, this doesn't affect us. And I'm like, okay, so maybe it's not affecting us here on the soil of the United States of America, which, by the way, there have been attempts of assassinations and attacks by Iran on American soil. But let's just set that aside. In 1983 in Beirut, there was 241 U.S. Marines that were killed. In 96, 19 American airmen were killed by IRC involvement at the Khobar Towers. Between 2003, 2011, 603 plus U.S. troops deaths attributed to Iran-backed EFP attacks. I mean, I can go on. There's been multiple attempts. And I'm like, I guess it's easy for you to forget about these servicemen, Megyn Kelly, that you're claiming died for another country and not for themselves or for the United States of America, when you forget about all of the servicemen that are constantly under threat and attack by Iran and, of course, other people who are funded by Iran. But they're over in the Middle East. And you get it as a headline, and you don't have to worry about it.
Or confront it, or put that into your calculation of whether this is a just war. Yeah. Well, and I got to be honest, too. I don't want to get petty, and I'm going to let Amanda pop off in a second. But to me...
Because she's about to bust.
Yeah. People become very boring to listen to when they don't have original thoughts anymore. And when I can listen to Megyn Kelly and Tucker on the same day, and for kind of Dave Smith, who's supremely annoying, or like Glenn Greenwald, and they're all saying the exact same thing, I no longer have an interest in listening to you, because I realize that you're afraid to break from your compadres and have an original thought. And to me right now, it just sounds like Megyn and Tucker, and to a lesser extent, like Glenn Greenwald, they're all in like the self-reinforcing bubble. And they kind of want to just disagree with, I mean, even that she's bringing up Mark Levin, get real. It's just because that's who Tucker talks about on every single podcast. And then Shapiro. Yeah. And it's like, you all feel like you have to hate the same people, say the same thing, because it makes you guys feel good. It kind of reinforces and you scratch each other's backs, but you become very boring when you do that. And I think people are, and to a lesser degree, Candace is playing into this as well, because it's bleeding into this new Catholic right that's getting really anti-Semitic, and that's feeding a beast too. It's messy, and it's really sad to watch. Now go, Amanda, go.
Because she's about to bust.
Yeah.
This is the problem. Megyn Kelly has been such an idol of mine for so long, and so this is sad.
That's what I was going to say, because there's Greenwald and Dave Smith. They've been doing this for ages. Yeah. Tucker and Megyn Kelly have changed, like, and it's
Tucker bums me out. I loved listening to Tucker for years.
He was another one that I'm just. Here's the thing with Megyn Kelly, though. The way she says this, she declares, "I don't think this benefits us. I think that this is Israel's war." Megyn Kelly, the last time I listened to her, like a week straight, was with the Nancy Guthrie stuff, because I was kind of interested in it, and she was bothering me with that coverage, because she kept saying, I mean, I'm a journalist. I'm allowed to ask these questions. I'm allowed to ask, is it the brother, when the police do not think it was the family involved. Still, what happened with that case? But she just kept saying, I'm a journalist. This is what journalists do. We ask these questions. I'm sorry, Megyn Kelly. It is your job, because we've all said here, and the administration's not messaging this well. It is your job as a journalist to figure out what they're doing. Figure out, why is this Israel's war, or is it not Israel's war? I could give you 10 different people who have put out like really fascinating stuff for this war, against this war, on Substack, on all of these different platforms, on Twitter, on all of these things. Oh, is it to cover up the Epstein files? I think that that's ridiculous, but that is a theory people have. Is this
several that are ridiculous?
Is this about China? I think that that's a really interesting conversation. But Megyn Kelly to just come out and declare this has no benefit to us, and this is Israel's war. How? You're not a journalist. You're not a journalist. You're a conflict.
Yeah,
but this is not our war.
Yeah,
you're not a journalist.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just like what Rachel said. She's just repeating the same thing. Because, like, for example, if we were to make, the argument, for example, that Iran Israel dragged us into the war. That's one of the talking points. But then I would argue it's like, well, if that were true, then the United States, the CIA, who had the information about where everybody was hanging out for breakfast, they wouldn't have told them. They would have just kept it to themselves if they didn't want to. I mean, obviously, if you're going to give this information to Israel, that's going to lead them to want to do a strike. So then, like, how can you say that Israel is the one that dragged the United States in that particular situation? And then also to completely take out of the entire game of play how all of this aligns with China in the sense of like Venezuela and taking out Venezuela and now blocking the access of Iran to have people in Venezuela, which is what they were doing. And also China having access to Venezuelan oil. That is a huge thing. And now China also doesn't have access to Iranian oil, which I believe provides them like 80%, if I'm not mistaken.
So 80% of
correct?
the oil that 80 to 90% of the oil that Iran exports goes to China, but that only makes up 13 to 14% of Chinese oil imports.
Got it.
That being said, 50% of China's oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran de facto controlled before Trump sunk their navy over the past few days. So,
but my point being is that to go and say that this doesn't benefit the United States at all, and so it must be a war for Iran. And of course, there are other elements, but I think those are just like, it's like when you're weighing, the absolutism and the simple, like, it must be just this reason. And if any other possibilities benefit Iran or Israel or somebody else, and it doesn't only benefit us 100%, then either the president's a traitor or this is all for Iran or this is all for Israel. And it's just so like demagogic, like it's just like lazy too. And it really irritates me.
Well, I think that it's pretty easy. I mean, I don't want to be a cynical person, but I think that it's pretty easy to predict why it's much more convenient to be a demagogue, to be an absolutist on things you don't understand. Because if you've worked in that sector for as long as both Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson have, and to a lesser extent, like a Dave Smith or Glenn Greenwald, they understand that if you carve out a space for yourself where you are an absolutist and you give people sound bites without context, without actual journalisming, without factual data, just based on feelings, a lot of people will take that and that will become their truth too, because it's much easier to listen to someone telling you, I feel like this is wrong. Do you feel like it's wrong? I feel like it's wrong. I don't know, but I know.
It makes it easy.
It makes it easy because it's much easier to do that than sit and listen to an hour of us talking about it with nuance and being able to say, I'm not sure about this, or maybe this won't go well, but let's think about this side. It's just easier. And for them, they'll do that because in the end, that generates more clicks, more views, and a lot more money. We've talked about it, Mercedes. It's much easier to give the answer that tickling ears want to hear because it's more incendiary, it's more controversial, sometimes conspiratorial. Obviously, in this situation, it is as well. It just generates more of an audience. And even people who don't agree are listening. I mean, we're talking about it, so they understand that it's a win-win for them.
Yeah. So I want to play, because I've referenced it now a few times, and I know it's going to come up in conversations, or it's something that a lot of our listeners are going to be confronted with. And it's specifically, this is Marco Rubio, who had just come out of a briefing of the Gang of Eight. And I'm going to provide you guys with the full clip, but because I want you to listen to him fully, because there is a portion within this clip where he references and says, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the quote exactly, but he says that Israel was going to conduct strikes anyway, or something along those lines, which would then result in some form of retaliation. So the United States decided that we might as well move ahead and be preemptive in order to anticipate the fact that the way it's being framed, since Israel was going to conduct strikes to begin with anyway. That's like a fair comparison of like the context that you guys are seeing online. I'm
yeah,
asking.
all I've seen, yes. Okay, I was like, is that a question? Yes, all I've seen
It
online.
is a question. I just wanted to make sure that I got that correct.
And you know
That's
how people like
point.
jump, the talking point goes out. And I wonder where these memos are coming from and who starts the talking point and how they message it, because people jump onto them like within minutes. But as soon as they got over the whole, like, this isn't America first, Marjorie Taylor Greene side of all of it, they moved right as Rubio came out within like an hour of his like 15-minute press conference, whatever that was. I start seeing all of the same type of narrative.
Okay, to be fair, kind of, this is self-inflicted by
to a degree.
the Republican.
I just don't think as bad as they.
You don't think so?
No, I don't.
Because
I think that. Sorry.
No, because the rapid response clipped it without the additional context.
But I had seen them saying this exact same thing about Rubio before rapid response. Because I remember thinking, oh my gosh, you guys, listen to more than 15 seconds before you formulate an opinion. Because in his, he said much more than that if you had listened to the 13 minutes. But then, of course, it doesn't help when you got rapid response, which a lot of the GOP follows and trusts. I have for a lot of my, and then I'm going back and going, wait a second, have they done this to me before and I've been duped? Like, I don't know. I was thrown for a loop with that one.
Okay, I'm going to play the full clip though for everybody to hear.
No, well, let me two things I would say. Number one is, no matter what, ultimately this operation needed to happen. That's the question of why now. But this operation needed to happen because Iran in about a year or a year and a half would cross the line of immunity, meaning they would have so many short-range missiles, so many drones, that no one could do anything about it because they could hold the whole world hostage. Look at the damage they're doing now. And this is a weakened Iran. Imagine a year from now. So that had to happen. Obviously, we were aware of Israeli intentions and understood what that would mean for us, and we had to be prepared to act as a result of it. But this had to happen no matter what.
So everybody's focused on that last, like, what is that, like 10 seconds or so?
Yeah.
But to me, this seems like, duh? In the sense, like, he's saying, which, by the way, I sent this to you guys. I don't know if you guys saw it in the text thread, but last night at about 3:00 in the morning, because my dog again woke me up and I got on my phone.
Was it Samantha?
Yes.
Samantha knows. Samantha knows.
She has not let me sleep since all of this popped off. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding.
It's kind of a blessing. You get the, yeah.
I think it's because like they started to drop bombs over in Iran and she wakes up. And then I gotta check my phone. I kid you not. It's crazy. But I was listening to something and there was a Wall Street Journal report back in December, late December, where U.S. and you probably talked about this, Amanda, where I think U.S. Special Forces or something like that boarded what turned out to be an Iranian ship that was intercepted because Chinese ship that was sending like ballistic missile materials, supplies that could have also been used for but like it was suspect. And it was confiscated because it was from China on its way to Iran, materials for ballistic missiles. So to say like, first of all, like they weren't doing anything or it had been obliterated, because yes, it's been obliterated, but the issue is that they were making moves to reconstitute what they had lost or couldn't get access to. And really that is further evidence. Yeah, go ahead.
Really quick, just so we're clear, because I think we're about to enter a period where people are going to pursue nuclear weapons more, which I'm actually fine with. This is 1940s technology, 1950s technology. This is not, Japan could have a nuke in 2 weeks. They should have one. South Korea could have one in 2 weeks. They should have one. I just saw a headline that Poland is about to.
Yep, I just saw that
going to try. We should also help probably the Swedes and the Finns at least get them. Ukraine at the end of this war should get like we are about to see an age of nuclear proliferation, and so long as it's American partners, I don't think that that's a very bad thing because hopefully it deters war.
Why not?
Right? Because if people that we can trust have mutually, I don't know, it's not going to work anymore to have the United States be the nuclear umbrella for everyone. Clearly, it didn't deter Russia from entering Europe. Right. So, I mean, okay, so we just need to keep that in mind. But it's 1940s, 1950s technology. So the idea that we can just stop countries from getting it forever is not like Iran forever. Like it's probably, I don't know, North Korea exists. They can like the Chinese exist, Pakistan exists. If they want to make some money on the side, they can sell this technology. So that's just something that we're going to have to be aware of.
Well, I mean, and that kind of brings in like what Rubio's point though was that they didn't want Iran to grow to a point where we ended up with a North Korea situation. Because what was it, like 89 that North Korea ended up with nuclear?
It was under Clinton.
Okay. So, because if we had just like, it would get to the point that they would have so much to protect themselves and then nobody messes with them. And now we have another North Korea that could pop off at any moment, maybe, or whatever, with nuclear weapons. I don't think and I wanted to play the full clip because I wanted everybody to hear him in context. He's like, yeah, well, Israel's going to do something. Also within the context of like, this was an opportunity. Why wouldn't you? Like, I just think
like what
Amanda
said at the top of the episode. They're weak,
and I think,
and we're not.
Imagine. I'm doing my Trump hands here. That if we had done nothing, and then stuff continued to escalate, and then a year from now, it's discovered that they did have a nuclear weapon. And it happened on Trump's watch. Can you imagine how everybody would have been like, why didn't you drop bombs on them back in, what are we in? What month are we in? In March or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
well, he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. People are going to hate him no matter what. What I'm most concerned about is the growing tide of influential Republicans who are smearing him after only 2 days. And, I'm hoping that they're less effective and less transformative within the party than people give them credit for. But there's a lot of
conversation of like the divide. And of course, there's always conversation, the divide in MAGA, which whatever. I think I'm with Amanda. Like, if everything, there's always an asterisk here with everything I say. But I mean, I don't know. There's several ways that this could go, because we could end up with a regime change, or we could end up with like Delcy Rodriguez situation. We could also end up with, I don't know, like an Arab Spring gone sideways situation, which would not be great. I think that would be the worst case scenario. But currently, I don't feel that's the way it's going. I mean, I'm curious, like, what is your over under on this situation? Like, how are you feeling about how this might potentially pan out, even though it's unfair to ask you because it's literally day 4?
Well, I think, like, look, in the next week, we're going to see how this is going to unfold. The big thing that I'm watching right now is Iran holding back weapons? So are they waiting for interceptors to be depleted in the Gulf states, and then they start targeting things more directly, and they are still able to launch some stuff off? The real issue there would be drones, because right now with the ballistic missiles, we have heat maps. So we can find the launchers, and even if there's ballistic missiles left over, who cares? They can't launch them. But anyone can go anywhere in some of these mountainous areas by the Persian Gulf and launch off a bunch of drones. And those are much harder to, anyone can go launch those off from anywhere. And so does Iran have the will to keep doing that and keep sending those off, keep this thing going, and keep trying to drag the Gulf in and all that? That's the worry that I have. And if that happens, then Trump's going to have to find an off ramp for that, because we're not doing it for 6 months or a year of just like, all right, like errant drones all the time. He doesn't have the patience for that. We don't want to do that. So that's my worry. Yeah. But what you're talking about, we either have like regime change, regime recalibration with the Delcy Rodriguez scenario, or you're right. Yeah. I mean, Turkey has said that the Azeris and people are going to maybe go get involved. We're talking about arming the Kurds and softening that board. Did you guys just say that and like letting the Kurds go in?
Yeah,
and
I said it at some point because I heard it in passing. Not like I knew exactly what I was talking about.
Well, no, that too. I mean, like we're probably arming people on the ground. There's a lot of different ways that this could go, and so we're gonna have to kind of see how it goes. In my opinion, anyone we get is
better.
I don't think that you can get much worse than the current Islamic regime in Iran. When people come up all the time, they're like, "Well, what if we get someone worse? How do you get someone worse than
well, and I think a lot of people don't understand
a different state sponsor of terror.
Yeah,
like the bar's in hell.
And also like the regime, like who is leading is the minority of the population. It's just that the population is unarmed. Yeah, but like the majority is unarmed.
That's true, but it's also like it's the minority of the population, but all of the aristocracy is like kind of, or not aristocracy, but like the bureaucracy is all kind of entrenched with them.
So I don't know. We'll see how it all pans out. But everything's like we said during our live that we're in still the very beginning stages. And anyone who's just doing absolutes, I would be very suspicious of. But I also think like it's fair to be suspicious of anything that the administration is saying or anything that the Democrats is saying, because everyone, like, I mean, everybody's propagandizing in one way or another. And I find it very interesting. I want to get your feel for this. So the president hasn't really, he's done the 2 addresses that he's done, but he hasn't done like an official, he hasn't made like a case, so to speak, to the public. But he keeps doing like little interviews though with different, like all the reporters are literally just calling him up and he's just picking up the phone and answering questions, which is kind of wild. What are you going to say? What came out?
He put something out today explaining Operation Epic Fury, the White House. The core objectives
I saw that.
Yeah. So they finally put this out. In my opinion, because this is going to end in a deal, they're not really saying exactly what they want. And again, the Israelis understand that they're junior partners, but they have the abject objection. Like they are pursuing regime change.
Yeah.
And just because nobody's going to invade on the ground, you can't really have the objective be regime change if we're not really going to go effectuate it ourselves. But you can hope for it. You can do certain things. So, yeah, I mean, the objectives that they've announced are demilitarization, so destruction of all of the missile forces and production facilities and stuff, elimination of the terrorist regime, so regime elimination, not change.
Not change, just elimination.
Protection.
You guys figure it out after that.
Obliteration.
3 is protection of the United States from current and future threats, and 4 is ensuring Iran does not possess nuclear weapons. So those are people can have doubts about if this is going to work. I think the worst case scenario would be for this to like turn into another mowing the grass situation where every few years the United States and Israelis have to go bomb Iran a bunch. Even though that's like not as costly for us, we would like to not do this.
Not do that.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I mean, another worst case scenario would be like a bunch of, I don't know, a huge like civil war.
Like insurgencies and stuff like that within Iran and a civil war situation. I don't know. Maybe I'm naive, but I don't feel like Iran is primed for civil war just because of history but I could be like, I don't know. I just feel like when you had people that at some point have a memory of having a successful secular, non-theocratic, somewhat, it wasn't democratic, it was a monarchy, and that you have a lot of people being like, yeah, I think I'd be okay if the monarchy just came back. I feel like that's a little less likely for civil war situation.
The only thing I would say about that is that, like, look, Iran sits on a lot of oil. Well, look, Iran sits on a lot of oil. And so if you have self-interested parties who are like, hey, if I can get control and play ball and then I get a piece of this oil, I'm going to be very wealthy if I do that. That's when you start to see sectarianism come up. And it's not a 100% Persian country. It's like a very actually diverse country. It's like 50% Persian. I think it's 40% now Azeri, and then a bunch of different other. So I mean, I think that there is possibility for like civil war, but I also think, like, look, the Israelis did the beeper operation. They have this. They are so tapped in this. Like, do we really think that they don't have a plan? Like, really?
That's the other thing. I think it's just like, I mean, I think a lot of people, first of all, we've talked about this during our Unfiltered. It's like everybody's just used to having information. And because they're used to having information, they want to be debriefed in the moment because they feel like they have a right to it. And I'm like, well, you also have to consider that it would be very unwise for the president to just give information out and not completely and like show his hand. Like, I just feel like that would not be best practices of being, I don't know, commander in chief, to be like the fact that we actually had a president at one point announcing the day and time essentially that we were going to withdraw our troops. Like, excuse me, sir. Are you trying to set us up for failure?
Yeah.
I'm talking about Biden, by the way, if nobody remembers that situation.
Well,
So
I mean,
yeah, but I want to start wrapping this up, but I do want to pose a political question here domestically. So today, I don't think it has anything to do, but today, right now, the primaries are going on in Texas, which will determine who's going to be running for the Senate. So that's the Tellerico, Crockett, and then Cornyn versus Paxton on the Republican side. So by Thursday, when we have our next episode, we'll probably know who's actually running for the Senate, which kind of sets it up for what is going on. Like, you had Adam Schiff come out and is immediately against what the president is doing. Harris immediately statement against what the president's doing. Like, there has been, except for maybe a handful of Democrats, one of them being Fetterman, they're all like against. And then Republicans are all for, except for Massey, but Massey's against literally anything that the Republicans are doing right now. And I'm just curious, like, let's say the administration pulls this off. Like, aren't the Democrats doing themselves a disservice, coming so against Iran, like an operation against Iran right off the bat, just because they're delusioned by their hatred for Trump, which is what I think it is.
I do want to point out that in Kamala Harris's 60 Minutes disastrous interview, when I don't even remember who the interviewer was there, but when he asked her, what do you think is the biggest threat? She said Iran. So here's the thing, like, Trump not doing the war powers and then trying, like, everybody who knows anything in Congress, I made a TikTok about this yesterday. Anybody who knows what they're talking about knows the threat of Iran, and they have known the threat of Iran. And so Democrats right now, half of them are mad about like the process arguments. The other half of them are like really tapped into like the third worldist, we must be for decolonization and Muslims are the decolonizer, crazy. And support them. By the way, like, if we're talking about primaries in Texas and just anywhere, like, the more you can get Democrats to talk about Middle East wars and Palestine, the worse off that they're going to be, because they're basically pissed off about that. And so this is kind of interesting. But I just want to read, because I just saw this, and I think that I don't know how I don't think this is probably good to be publishing, but Hillel Fold of UN Watch just published this text from a U.S. Navy SEAL. He said, "We're a little ahead of schedule. Today, we completely wiped out their Navy. They have 0 ships now." Iran. We have full air superiority. All effective ADA sites are gone. They have no ground to air. They have some ballistic cruiser and some one-way Group 2 and 3 drones left. They already lost. We're just doing surgical work now. So unless there's some major insurgency that's against us or a huge civil war, you don't want to be against this war, because
well, I mean, look, the media isn't exactly going to be like, so you said you were against it, but hey, it's turned out to be pretty successful. What are your feelings now? Like, the media is not going to do that. No. They're not going to do that to the Democrats. They're not going to set them up in that way. It's going to just kind of fall to the wayside and be like, I think it's very interesting that, I mean, clearly it plays because they think it's something that helps them in some way to be against it. I think they did the same thing with Venezuela, and then when Venezuela was successful, they just kind of forgot about it and
Stop talking about it.
Stop talking about it. So I just think it's very interesting how they just and to even talk about like the processes, like there is a clip going around right now of Nancy Pelosi saying that Obama didn't have any need for congressional approval when he's dropping bombs in Syria. She's like, no, he doesn't have to. And then she walked out of the room. And arguably,
that's a really important point to make.
Yeah.
It's the anomaly to get congressional approval to go to war. The only two that we got it for in the last like 30 years is Iraq and Afghanistan. The two that everyone hates the most. Yeah. Libya, we didn't have it.
But I don't even think, I think the last time we actually had a congressional declaration of war was World War II. I don't think.
Yeah, because the other two with not the IRC. What is it that?
Yeah.
Yes.
The which AUMF, is wild. Which is people don't know that. They're like, Congress has to declare war. I'm all, do you want to talk about Vietnam? You want to talk about the Korean War? Like, do you want to talk about all kinds of things we've done? I'm not saying we should have been involved in all those. I'm simply saying read a history book. Like, stop saying, you can just not say things. Just, well, also don't say the things.
War powers would be if we're going to put boots on the ground or it's going to be over 60 days. Trump is saying it's not going to be either. This is just Congress being government funded podcasters trying to go out there and like raise money by saying we deserve to be consulted. No, you don't.
Yeah. Nobody cares what you think.
Well, and you don't do anything.
I would like to hear what Jasmine Crockett has to say.
Well, but like they all of a sudden want to work when it has to do with war powers. That's when they want to work. Work other times. Do anything.
Not when it has to do with funding the DHS, which considering like they thought that they had the immigration talking point and now they're all like, whoa, now they have to. Well, I mean, like, think about it. Can you imagine, heaven forbid, I mean, we already had that situation that happened in Austin, which is looking like a lone wolf situation, but I digress. I'm also very curious about that stabbing on the highway in DC,
Virginia,
which was a foreign, like it was a State Department. But I'm like, foreign officer where? Like, is this a homeland situation or something like that? Like, I want information about this guy. Where did he serve? What is his background? Why is he randomly stabbing people on the highway?
Why
because
does he
of
have
alleged
a large
road rage?
A humongous knife in his car. Everybody's like, it was road rage. I'm all, I don't carry a knife this
I don't have a chef knife in my car.
Sorry.
I have a
and
pocket knife.
And you're a chef. So if anyone's going to have one, maybe it'd be you. But like normal people don't travel like that. So
yeah. And then now we're going to like not fund DHS because you're upset about Border Patrol and ICE, which is already funded. Like, what? Give me a break. Get it together. Do your job. Let the president do. And if extends out, then we have to address the situation. But this is not the time. And by the way, to confirm what you just said on that text message, the president did an interview with Bret Baier. I think it was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, where he said, well, we're ahead of schedule. I think this actually might go. He's like, I didn't think we're going to kill like 49 of their leaders in one shot, but we did. So we're looking pretty good.
Okay. You gotta love the confidence. You really do. You have to appreciate the confidence.
It is kind of incredible.
And he has been entertaining, again, always is, where he's like, what did he say about the Ayatollah? Like the Ayatollah tried to get me twice.
That's a job I created there too. He said, they're like, I'm creating jobs there too.
I love it so much. Oh my gosh, this guy.
Yes.
Well, and have you guys seen the last thing? I think we talked a lot about the right. But like the left not understanding how to deal with Iranians being happy about this is really a sight to behold. And you're seeing all of these Iranian, like really beautiful Iranian girls, like doing the Trump dance.
The Trump dance.
And it's like, first of all, that's American soft power, whether you like him or hate him. Like everyone like doing his dance is like kind of incredible.
It's
but
surreal.
It's also like, it's like, it's a really weird thing for the left who's like all into this mono protest culture to watch a protest go out and it's Israelis and Persians all celebrating,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no damage and there's no crime, and actually they like clean up afterwards, and it
Yep.
Well, and then the
everyone's, like,
protests in New
happy.
York that happened.
Wow. And in
And,
LA.
like-
LA has an enormous Iranian population. And
No, but the anti-war,
Mhm.
anti-war one in New York
Oh,
that
yeah.
just popped out of nowhere
It's all
with
blue hair.
like signs and
well, the
all
signs
of these.
are replicating completely the exact same signs, the exact same everything from the Venezuela protests, because they're funded by the same guy who's funded by the CCP. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping us up because we're already like a little bit over our time, but we could talk about this for ages, and I'm sure it'll come up again. We might have Amanda on to give us another like debrief as this develops. So, but we would love to hear what you guys think, especially our listeners. How are you feeling right now? Are you for it? Are you adamantly against it? Are you still a wait and see? Is there anything that would give you a little bit more reassurance? I'd really love to hear from you guys in the comments, especially because I think this is one that a lot of people are starting to feel out. If you want to continue to follow along with what is going on in Iran, I highly recommend you give Amanda a follow. She is on Instagram. She is on TikTok. She also does articles here on Substack. I will have all her links in the show notes because you're pretty consistently posting stuff. I love your sassy pants reels, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Sometimes I'm seeing these things and I'm like, I have to say it.
I get so annoyed. I'm like, I absolutely love it. So please, please, please go give her a follow and let us know your thoughts. Thank you so much, Amanda, for hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So if this is your first time here, welcome. You have found your new favorite podcast. Make sure you hit that follow button. Wherever you're listening, we're on all major podcast apps, on YouTube the next day, and on Substack if you want to listen to this ad-free. And the moment I hit publish, you get to see all of our beautiful faces. You will find us on Substack, and there is a link in the show notes. In the meantime, here's a reminder. The media is trash. So is some of the podcast outlet lately, too. And we have no tolerance for it. Okay, friends. Bye.
Okay,
now, all my dogs.
Amanda.